Greetings, everyone. I hope everyone is safe and in good health. Welcome to this one-of-a-kind webinar on requirement loop simulation with Stimulus. I am Aditya from Trident Infosol, and Trident is the company responsible for today's webinar. Allow me to introduce our organization. We began our operations in the year 2000, and we have a presence pan-India. We are known in the industry as a complete solution provider spanning various domains. This is our partial clientele list. As you can see, we have a presence both in the government and private sector. We are partnered with Dezo Systems, and we offer a tightly integrated system development tool chain starting from requirement capture. We have a tool called Rectify, which provides requirement traceability. Then in order to validate those requirements, we have a tool called Argosim, which is the topic of today's discussion. At the system level, we have a tool called NoMagic, which is used for creating system architecture. We also provide advanced tools for complex engineering systems, such as AutoSAR for open authoring and simulation. This is mainly used in the automotive domain. Coming to the component design level, we have a tool called Dymola, which is a 1D modeling and simulation tool. Any application in tandem with electromagnetics is dealt with a tool called CST. Finally, we have our own homegrown solution called Innoia, which is a PLM solution. Now, I would like to take the time to introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. Yves Genevot. So Mr. Yves has 25 years of software experience in embedded system, which he brings to the table, collaborating with companies from various domains such as avionics, railways, automotive, and defense, just to name a few. In his long stint as a professional in simulation software, which has culminated in Dezo Systems, where he is presently a director for CATAIR Systems in the Stimulus profile. So Mr. Yves, I will leave the webinar in your capable hands.
We'll see if my hands are capable, actually. Thank you so much for the intro. I'm going to share my screen. Please confirm when you can see it.
Yes, Steve, your screen is visible now.
All right. Okay. Very, very glad to be with you. I'm missing India so much since the COVID situation. No one can travel, and I really regret not to be actually with you. I'll anyway share with you some very important, very innovative things about making sure that the spec is correct, and also test automation. The test automation I will present to you today have nothing to do with the test automation that everybody is using. Everybody is doing test automation when developing systems and embedded systems, but it's only the repetition of the previous test campaign, verifying you get the same result as before. No one is enjoying the power of the test automation I'm going to present to you. And there's a huge benefit of using Stimulus for testing that the system meets its specification. I never insist enough on that. The thing with Stimulus is it's the first tool of its kind that enable you to verify that the requirements are the right ones. Before, every talk, every webinar, every demo about requirements, it's about, say, you have your requirements, you have to manage them. Hey, wait, you have to do traceability with Rectify maybe. And that's important. They are important topics, traceability, requirement management, etc. But no one ever started his speech telling you, oh guys, wait. Before we manage requirements, let's first verify if they are the right ones. Otherwise, what's the point? You never heard that speech. This is the first time you're going to see what I'm going to show to you. The challenges we address with this solution are numerous, and if we put them into the development process for embedded systems, that's what is our domain, embedded systems development. You could say that there are a number of phases which are doing really bad, and very often much worse. They are doing much worse than people can actually measure. Early phase, the very early phase of the spec, possibly using no magic tools, using the CSML language, it's getting better. It's getting better. But the next step, when you start defining the detailed requirements, and in particular the functional requirements, I will define them, then it's a mess. We know that. Every time we look to a set of detailed requirements, whatever the company is, more than the half are wrong, often 70% and more. So it's ugly, it's terrible, and no one knows that. Why? Because people can't find the mistakes, so they have a kind of human, natural feeling that if I can't find mistakes, probably there aren't many mistakes left. No, you just can't find them, that's it. And so that phase is really doing really badly. The next phase is these requirements. They're supposed to become test objectives. So each and every requirement is going to be turned, duplicated, if you will, as a test case. And that's awfully costly. You don't have enough test cases, and the consequence will be later on when you're after implementation, when you test the software, you don't have enough test cases. They might not even be the right one, but you don't know that. And so you don't find all the anomalies you'd like to actually find. And the next phase, when you have your embedded system, possibly test workbenches, expensive systems in order to test, to do the final validation, it's very complicated. It's very complicated, and you can't observe a lot of things while you are running the code because it just goes too fast. So what is observed at runtime is a few properties, not the whole mass of actual requirements, but a few properties. And then what the current practice, a common practice, is to record the inputs and outputs and analyze the log file of the test afterwards. And that again is extremely difficult. Bugs go through without being detected. It's very painful also. So these are phases that we improve radically with Stimulus on a way that did not exist before. Basically, for that detailed requirement phase, we are going to simulate the requirements and make sure they are complete and correct. We'll generate as many test cases as you like, as many test cases, thousands and thousands, instead of developing them manually one by one. So at testing time, Stimulus will allow to compare automatically the behavior of the code with the functional spec automatically. I'll show you that in the demo. Last phase, hardware in the loop tests. We analyze automatically the content of the log files. They contain the inputs and outputs that occurred during the tests. And we compare with the specification, the requirements, and detect any violation of the spec, any, automatically. Again, a much, much stronger validation capability in the HAL phase. When I'm saying requirements in this speech, I'm talking about the detailed functional requirements for embedded system. It's the moment, so it's not the requirement saying the missile has a range of at least 1,000 kilometers. No, that's the kind of high-level requirement you might consider when doing a no magic model, called CATIA Magic now. But later on, when you get into the details of the components of the embedded system, you are going to define precisely what you're going to do when you receive these inputs. And you're going to have to say, yeah, I'm going to put that output to that value maybe within 0.5 seconds. So this is the kind of requirements we are going to talk about and that we address with Stimulus. The situation in the industry is people use, your clients use natural language requirements, and 70% of the errors created in a project, they are in the requirements. And the current process used by anybody who's not using Stimulus is reviews, which enable to find a small percentage of the errors only. So reviews don't work. And again, you also need to turn afterwards each and every requirement into 1 or 2 test cases that is not efficient. We propose to write the requirements almost the same way with a language based on templates. You'll see that in the demo, which gives you simulation capability so you can see how the system is going to behave according to the requirements. It's the earliest simulation capability you can get, including the textual requirements. Got plenty of customers developing complex systems. Don't be mistaken. For the demo, I'll use something reasonably simple for pedagogic reasons, so you understand the principles. But people are making nuclear plants, aircrafts, missiles, engine control, ADAS, you name it. I could mention Jaguar Land Rover in the Tata Group. Jaguar Land Rover, you know, they announced that in 2025, they will only make electric vehicles. Guess how they specify and how they're gonna validate the electric platform for their electric vehicles? With Stimulus. They bought millions of euros worth of Stimulus licenses last year. If they bet, they are betting their life. If Stimulus doesn't do what I'm going to show to you, Jaguar Land Rover is going to die because they rely on Stimulus for the creating the new generation of electric vehicles. So does it work? Yes. Will it work for you? Yes. If you do embedded system, it's going to work, and it's going to be much more effective than what you do today for the 4 phases I mentioned. It's proven. I mentioned we have a language based on templates. Basically, you can combine these templates freely in order to create the sentences, and then you push the play button, and you can see how the system is going to work according to this requirement. It's as simple as that. Now, systems aren't described with just a few requirements, obviously. So you have an architecture, and in Stimulus, you have block diagrams, of course. You need to be able to describe that. And the behavior of each component can be defined with state machines, textual requirements, or a free combination of both. For CATIA Magic users, so Cameo, NoMagic, whatever you want to call it, the block diagram from CATIA Magic can be transferred to Stimulus in order to have a digital continuity between CATIA Magic and Stimulus. To execute a specification like that, you need to send stimuli and observe the response. In Stimulus, the stimuli aren't defined one by one as you have to do today for the functional tests. They are generated from test scenarios, and these test scenarios use the same constructs, textual constructs or state machines, and see them as a set of constraints on the inputs, and between the inputs, you define a space from which you can generate as many combination of inputs as you like. And we observe the response with observers, in which you can put any property that matters, maybe safety properties, for instance, high-level properties. In order to, and if ever they are violated, of course, by the execution of the spec, you will be notified. Let's go on the right side of the V now. You got a proper spec, strongly validated for the first time in your life. The developers have created a piece of code, and now you want to test, to do the functional tests, comparing the behavior of the code with the specification. And that is the phase that is extremely manual today, because if the requirements are written in natural language, you cannot generate anything. So you turn manually each and every requirement into one test case. And if you want 2 test cases, you're going to do it twice manually. Awfully costly, not effective at all. With Stimulus, you replace the previous scheme where schema with you replace the spec with the code. So this time we stimulate the code, or it could be an FMU functional mockup unit generated from Simulink, and we put in an observer the specification in Stimulus, so we can detect automatically any violation of the spec by the code. It's extremely effective compared to the traditional way of doing the functional tests. Hardware in the loop, the last phase, you got these kind of files, basically, you know, thousands and tens of thousands of lines, and many columns corresponding to the inputs and outputs of the system you're trying to validate. And verifying that some properties have not been violated is actually a nightmare. Very simple. If you have Stimulus, you just load that log file into Stimulus. We see the inputs and outputs that actually happened during the tests. We compare with the spec put into an observer, or just one property you have entered in 2 minutes with Stimulus. And any violation of these properties of the spec is detected automatically. We are back to the previous case. Remember, requirements functional with the inputs and outputs, then we know we can compare automatically and make a lot of verifications that are absolutely not doable today, not because your colleagues doing that or your clients doing that would be stupid. Of course not. They just don't have the means to do it in a reasonable amount of time. I'm gonna skip this. Stimulus is about authoring, writing the requirements. Our users stop writing requirements in natural language because it doesn't work, actually. So they write them in Stimulus first, simulate, debug, and once it's validated, then they store them into the DS platform, the 3DX platform, if they have it, or also can exchange with classic requirement management tool, DOORS, PTC, whatever, you name it. Through Excel, it works as well. It's better with the 3D experience, but many of our clients are actually using other requirement management tool. It does the job. For the first time, they have the means to put into, say, DOORS, something that is verified, that they know is trustworthy. So basically what we are saying is Stimulus allows to support an end-to-end MBSE based process from the beginning to the end. The early phase could be done with CATIA Magic, SysML tools. Then we can import into Stimulus the block diagrams and do the detailed specification, the validation plan through the test scenarios. The specification, the detailed spec is executable, so you can verify it's correct, and then use it as a reference for maybe testing that the Simonic model is compliant with its spec, verifying that the code runs according to its spec automatically, and eventually, even at HIL time, verify that nothing during the execution of the system was violating any requirement that was captured at this early phase here. So let's see in practice how this works. Let's go into Stimulus. First, let's have a look to before we enter into a small example. I'll show you an example of a battery management system. It's a crucial component for electrification. It has a certain architecture. You see here 2 blocks in which you have, if I double click, say on this one, there is a number of requirements written for that particular system. Same for the other one, junction box here. So if I double click, there is also a set of requirements here. That is the architecture, but you have also requirements at the upper level for globally for the system, for the BMS. And these are the high level requirements for the BMS, which are here. So this is typically what the system, what the spec in Stimulus look like. It allows to write really clean, very structured stuff. Like for instance, here you see we are in a paragraph about safety, and here we're going to say, for instance, we define safety issue when at least one of the following condition is met, and then we have a number of actions that have to be taken when the safety issue is indeed detected. We're going to say, for instance, you open this line within 110 milliseconds, then maintain it, and meanwhile you do something else on another one. So these are the kind of detailed requirements captured at that level, and nothing of that is described in a SysML model. It's low-level stuff, whereas SysML is for high-level stuff, much more abstract level. Let's go to our example. The example we're going to use is automatic headlights of your car. And what you want, obviously, is when the light intensity is low, you want to switch on the headlights. If you have one limit, it's not going to work properly, you know that. And so on your system, in embedded systems, people define hysteresis on tons of topics. Here we're going to say when the light intensity goes under 60% for 2 seconds, switch on the headlights. And wait, we are above 70% for the light intensity for 3 seconds to switch off. Let's see some requirements. For that simple example, you have here a requirement for the on mode. When the switch is on, headlight shall be on. Switch headlights are defined here. You see, it's the signals, inputs and outputs, and coming from a glossary where they have been defined. Here, for instance, for the switch, we say it has 3 values: auto, on, and off. How do you write requirements in Stimulus? It's pretty simple. You do copy, paste, and change some parameters. You might have seen previously when I was many requirements have pretty much the same structure. So you often do copy paste and change something, parameters. Here, for instance, we have written off, but it's not the proper value actually for the parameter. It should be capital letters as reminded here. And so Stimulus will check anything it can check all the time systematically. So a lot of errors are prevented. Another way to create the second requirement is to go in the library of templates and drag and drop the templates we need. For instance, I need a when. So I go in the temporal library, drag and drop when. I need also is and shall be, that's actually equal. So I drag and drop twice equal. And now I can just play with, like when I was a kid, with Legos. So I will do switches off. I drag and drop the switch, enter off, drag and drop into the condition. Headlight, same, I put headlight here, copy, paste, and drag and drop into the body. Done. You might want to see shall blah, 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 because it's a requirement. That's the way to write them. I just right click and change for another appearance. I don't change anything to the semantics. It's just another way to appear in the sentence. And all those are under your control. You can change, tune them, add new templates pretty freely in Stimulus. So the language is customizable. It can be extended to support your ways of coding things. So we have two requirements here. Let's verify if they do the right thing. Click on play. Let's make 10 more steps. You see that Stimulus has generated the input randomly for the time being. We have not yet defined any test scenario. And we observe the response here in red, the headlight. So when switch is off, headlight is off. Fine, that's what we wanted. You can also observe that we animate the requirements. This is the active one. And next cycle, Stimulus has sent the value on, and the response will be on. Fine, that's what we want as well. A bit further, you see dotted lines. The output is free. It's not constrained. Why is it not constrained? Because all the requirements are gray, they are inactive. Why? Obviously, because the switch has the value auto and there's no requirement for the automatic mode. Stimulus helps you find the missing requirements, the holes in the specification, which is really very valuable. It helps to find what you forgot. Let's see a more complete piece of spec with a few requirements for the automatic mode here. I remind you what we want. We want basically this behavior. And we can see how we wrote that. We say when the light intensity is less than 60 for more than 2 seconds on. If it's above 70% for 3 seconds, off. And when we are in the hysteresis zone between 60 and 70, maintain headlight. We could do a review of this set of requirements, wonder if are they complete, correct, etc. And I promise you it's going to take a while. And probably at the end, we're going to agree that, well, it looks good, but we're not sure. And that's obviously a very simple system. Only only a few requirements, only 3 inputs and outputs, And so any system developed by you or your clients, they are much more complicated. Any function component has dozens of requirements, dozens of inputs and outputs. And so any spec they write is wrong, always. Can't be correct, never. Verifying that such a simple function is correct is already close to impossible, just through the manual review. So real systems, forget it. And that's why we find so many errors with Stimulus, which is also sort of good news because it means a huge value, a huge progress is at your hand. Don't, take my word, don't stay with natural language requirement. That was the 20th century. It's over. Let's check if that piece of spec works properly. I'm going to use a test environment to control the inputs and master what's going on. Let's put the version 1 we just saw into this blue block. So that is my spec. It receives switch and light intensity and is producing headlight. We control the way the switch is generated, so we'll focus on the automatic mode for the time being. So that is a very simple scenario, switch equal auto. For the light intensity, we have a richer scenario, the one you saw in the PowerPoint. Basically, what does it do? I will click on play. And you will see the capability of Stimulus to generate many test vectors, many combination of inputs. So we're going to do one test vector of 400 steps. You see light intensity going up and down, going towards a certain target, chosen randomly by Stimulus. So for instance, if I'm here, I'm going up. And once I'm above the target, Stimulus is choosing randomly another one. And now we are going down at a speed which is controlled by this requirement here. But it's not deterministic. So it varies a bit at every cycle. So such a scenario can be used to generate many different test vectors. If I click on this button, I get another one, and another one, and another one, or 10 in one shot, or 10,000 test vectors, which I could export to CSV because maybe I want to reuse all these test vectors in another environment, in my software in the loop environment, or hardware in the loop, or in Simulink, whatever. So a great capability based on a constraint solver to generate a huge amount of combination of stimuli to test the spec first, but later on to test the code as well. Let's go back to our version 1. Let's click on play and test the version 1. We're going to do one execution, 400 steps. Let's rock and roll. You observe the light intensity going up and down. You recognize it's exactly the same test vector as the one we generated previously. Here we have the switch, always auto. I couldn't filter the switch. And I put two variables to observe, to reflect the hysteresis zone. In red, the headlights. Sometimes on, sometimes off, and sometimes blinking. So we have an issue here. If I open the spec and I'm going here, I am, for instance, here in the hysteresis zone, and I can see that this is the active requirement. Headlight shall be stable. Here, light intensity is 53%. Headlight is on according to this requirement. At this point, none of the requirements is working, they are all gray. Therefore, headlights are blinking until this one wakes up after 3 seconds. And we get headlight equal off. So we have actually a moment where we forgot to define what the system is supposed to do during the 3 seconds delay here or during the 2 second delay here. So we have a hole in the spec. Let's fix that by saying, well, basically, I don't care when you change, but when you get out of the hysteresis zone, once you change, don't change anymore. This is what we have put in the version 2 here. When you get out of the hysteresis zone, after a change, don't change. That should do the trick. But again, if we do a review, I promise you, you won't know. Or if you think you know, you just don't know that you don't know. Let's test this version 2. I go back to my test environment, drag and drop the version 2 into the blue block. Click on play. And we make a first execution, and that's fine. You see that the blinking phenomenon has vanished. Let's use the capability of stimulus to generate many test vectors. Here is another one. So they look good until the 5th execution where we have this red vertical bar because we have conflicting requirement. This one is conflicting with this one. Indeed, the shall be stable is trying to maintain the value off. So can't work. So finding conflicting requirements is possible, but you need also to enjoy, to use the capability to run many executions in one shot or automatically. If you create manually test cases, you're not going to make it. Many errors are hidden in some specific situations, so you need to be able to generate many stimuli, many combinations of stimuli to find them. Let's accelerate a bit. So this is a version that works. Believe me, it works. We could do one thing first, test that that version, the V3, meets some high-level property, safety property. How can we do that? I go back to the test environment. You see here, I have my V3, which I just showed to you. That works nicely. I have a safety observer here. It's just a paragraph where we have a symbol here. And I have put the property here, which is actually this one, high-level requirement, which says basically when you're in automatic mode, headlight shall not blink. So we want to verify if the version 3 is going to violate or not this spec. That is today, if I'm politically correct, I'm going to call it extremely difficult for you guys to do. If we are frank, it's impossible. Verifying that this piece of spec is correct, if it's written with natural language, is just already close to impossible. So verifying that these specs will never violate a given property, forget it. Forget it. But it's very simple to do with stimulus. So here I have the property into an observer. Click on play to execute many times the version 3. We're going to say I executed 20 times. 20 executions, 20 test vectors generated automatically by stimulus, all a bit different according to the set of constraints we have here. And we observe that the safety is green, so never violated. So that's only 20 executions, of course, but you could make 20,000 executions, and you can start to have a confidence level in your spec, which is very, very strong. Can't be compared with the level of trust you can have today. It's much better. So we have a spec that works nicely. Let's go on the right side of the V. We have a piece of code. We want to verify the code meets the spec. How are you going to do that? Again, very simple. I have some compiled code, which is here. It's a DLL, put into a DLL. It's nothing special, just compiled code. It could be a FMU generated from tools such as Control Build, Simulink, Skate, whatever. So I'm going to put the code into my blue block. And before I test it, I create a second observer. I'll name it spec. And I'm putting into the spec observer, of course, the validated spec, the V3. I'm ready to start testing. At this point in your companies today, you're going to spend weeks creating manually test vectors, test cases. Here, you have nothing to do. We can immediately start the tests. I make again 20 executions of the code this time against the spec. Both observers are green, so it seems that the code is behaving properly. Let's verify the coverage, which is here. The spec is covered at 37%. We can obviously look to which requirements were covered. For instance, this one, on, was never executed, never covered. Same for off. Yes, if you remember, we constrain the value of switch to auto. So let's give more flexibility. We can now, stimulus will be allowed to change the switch every 4 seconds. Double click. It's a very simple scenario. So go back here and we re-execute the spec, the code against the spec and the safety 20 times with more diverse inputs. And this time we violate the spec. Ouch. The code violates the spec. Let's simply go here in the error messages, and we know that the run number 1 violated the spec at 28 seconds, and this is the violated requirement. This is hundreds of times more effective than any of your functional test process today, relying on natural language requirements turned manually into test cases with a very few test cases at the end. Such a process is immensely more effective. And one remark here, we have run the code inside Stimulus, but these values could be loaded from an Excel file, from a log file coming from your HAL test environment, and we would be exactly in the same situation. You have the inputs and outputs that actually happened earlier in a given test environment, load these results in Stimulus, and we compare with whatever we have put into some observers. One safety property, maybe, or a complete piece of spec. I'm done here for the demo. Just to conclude, some examples of what our clients are doing with Stimulus. First of all, do they take thousands and thousands of requirements to be put into Stimulus, rewritten in the Stimulus language? Not at all. Not at all. For 2 reasons. Time consuming legacy is legacy. And anyway, those who tried that realized that there are just too many errors in the existing requirements. It's not a very worth a legacy, it's noise. So they systematically use Stimulus for basically new stuff or functions they modify significantly, and they start from scratch in Stimulus. And the results are, in a couple of days, like in this case, they detect many errors, they get something working properly, and save a huge amount of time and money extremely quickly. Same here. This German company, you all know, it's a very big company. They make a new function that's going to take control of the steering wheel, very safety critical. Defined with 20 requirements. Does it work? Absolutely not. Completely wrong. But that's always the case. Don't imagine that anyone's doing better. Until you actually test the requirement, you don't know. And when you don't know that you don't know, that's very dangerous. Another situation where in the railway industry, this company cannot deliver a system to the New York City Metro, and they are going to pay 20 million euros penalties. And they've been debugging the code for months, actually, without solving the problem. And the question is, why do they look at the code? Most of the mistakes, they are in the spec. When eventually they realized that, looking to the spec with Stimulus allowed them to fix the problem in a matter of a few days. So when you have problems in the field, why are you looking at the code? It's probably not where the error is located. I'm going to tell you why. Because you have a debugger. And so, well, that's what you do. But the error is probably somewhere else most of the time. But if you have Stimulus as a spec debugger, then you can look to the right place first, where probably the bug is located. We still have a few minutes for questions.
Yeah, hi, it's Praveen here. There are some questions that has come up. Let me read it out for you.
Please.
The first question from Nitesh goes like this. How does Stimulus understand that there is a safety requirement violation?
Simply because I'll go back to the demo. Kill this. See what I was doing here. Test environment spec, maybe here. No, here. I'm running Stimulus executes something, an artifact. This artifact can be an executable piece of spec, like when I was simulating, for instance, the V2, right? Or it can execute some code here. And then in these chapters, which I can create just with a simple drag and drop of the I symbol, I have an observer in which I can put any property. So basically, it's not so much that Stimulus is going to tell you, you have a safety issue. It actually tells you the property or the set of properties you have in that particular observer has been violated during the execution of something. Again, the properties you define in Stimulus are a relationship between inputs and outputs. So if you have generated a certain set of inputs and the output is not compliant with the rule you have defined in an observer, then Stimulus can tell you. And therefore, we're going to use that the observers to verify that a piece of a certain spec meets some safety properties. A low-level spec meets the high-level spec. or a code violates or respects a piece of spec and or some safety properties. So I have another question about how do we generate test vectors? What's the basis for generating test cases? If I go back to here. So basically, Stimulus considers everything we enter here as constraints, right? So these are constraints, and Stimulus has a very advanced, very sophisticated constraint solver. So at every step, it will consider what are the values where we are, and given the set of constraints here, defines the space in which it can pick the values for the next cycle. Let's illustrate that. I click on play again here, but instead of doing tons of steps in one shot, I will do just one step, and one more. So at this point, Stimulus has a light intensity of 23%, 24. It has chosen a target, which is this value. And then, let's zoom out. And then it has to choose a value for the next cycle. The constraints are, it has to be a lower value because we are in that state, in that constraint, and a lower value which will respect also this requirement here, or not requirement, this constraint. So you can go up to minus 10% per second. That's the maximum. And as we have to decrease, it's going to be anywhere between 0 to minus 10%. And so it gives a set of possible values for light intensity at the next cycle. And when I'm doing this, Stimulus has chosen one value out of the set that was acceptable according to the constraint solver. Okay, so it's by resolving at each cycle the constraints that Stimulus define what's going to be my next inputs at the next cycle. And also, when we are testing, not like here, I'm only generating a test vector, but when I'm executing something, so more a spec with a set of inputs generation, etc., etc. So if here the spec is also a set of constraints. So the constraint solver first resolves the constraints here to generate the inputs, and given the inputs that have been generated, uses the let's put the spec, for instance, the V3 here, resolves the constraints which are the specification to define what can be that cycle, the value of headlight. And if there are several values that are possible, it will pick one of the possible values. Any other question?
Yeah, thank you so much, Yves. There's another question from Santosh. The question goes like this. Can we auto-generate system-level test cases using Stimulus?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So here, the example is, of course, pretty low-level example. If I go back to the BMS, for my BMS, the BMS is here. I have the BMS requirement, the system level, if I consider the BMS as my system. So these are the requirements at BMS level. Now, we said the BMS level is actually made of 2 components, and each of them has its own requirements here. therefore, so I could maybe work only on this component, test it, and generate some of these stimuli to make it react and see what kind of outputs it's going to generate and verify if it's doing what I want. Same for that. I can simulate the entire block diagram here and generate the stimuli for that globally for that system. So if I go here, so here, for instance, I have a scenario generating inputs for my system in which I have the BMS requirement put into that block. So here I'm doing tests at the BMS level, at the system level, if you like. And later on, I could also say, right, now that I have a piece of spec at system level that has been validated, I could create an observer, put into the observer the system level requirements here, and put here the architecture actually of my BMS. Where is it? It was this. I put the architecture. So if I double click, it's the block diagram, and now I have inside. So the level under, and what's going to be executed here are the low level requirements, those which are in the two blocks. So doing that, let's go back to here. So I am actually testing the lower level requirements with, in an observer, the higher level specification, the system level spec, once I have validated first, as explained. And that's the way to verify if the refinement and allocation of the requirements from the top level to the lower level was made correctly, which is, again, virtually impossible today if the requirements are written in natural language. It is just too complicated. Creating traceability link, yeah, sure, you can do it. Making sure that the low-level spec behaves and is consistent in terms of semantics with the high-level spec, if it's natural language, forget it. But you need to do that in principle. Without a tool like Stimulus, forget it. Any last question?
Yes, Yves, thank you for your detailed explanation out there. I have another question. How do we integrate requirements of more than one component from the system level?
That's what you see here. So all the systems, they have, I can show you another one, landing gear, for instance. Landing gear. So you have the system landing gear, and it has the landing gear has a set of basically system level requirements. For instance, it's going to say when the command is down, you need to get the gear extended and the door closed within 15 seconds and then maintained, for instance. So that's the high level system requirement. Now, this system, the landing gear, is actually made of 4 components doing different stuff. If I jump into, I don't know, this one, I'm going to find the lower level requirements for this particular component. And so let's go back to the architecture. Where is it? Here. Here, the block diagram. So you imagine you have developed and tested individually these components. Now that they are, you have put them, you have created this block diagram. Just you have a symbol to create block diagrams, and then you're going to create it. Like every decent modeling tool, and you define how these 4 components interact, what are the signals they exchange, and then we can do simulation of that block diagram of the complete block diagram, generating stimuli for that set of for this part of the system. Possibly, as I showed to you a bit earlier, putting into an observer the higher level specification so as to, while you are simulating the 4 components, basically making integration tests, you also use stimulus to verify the consistency with the upper level. Another question?
Right, there are a lot of questions coming up. However, due to the time constraint, I think we'll take up a last question and end up the session. So the last question looks interesting. How do we import requirements indoors to Stimulus?
I very much encourage you. I was about to conclude this way. You can go, and I'm going to answer the question actually. You can go to my LinkedIn account. Go on my LinkedIn account because on my LinkedIn account, there are tons of videos and papers showing simulations and demos of Stimulus for different aspects of the tool, analysis of a log file, test vectors generation, etc., etc. And one of the latest video published here is about the exchange with doors and actually any tool that is managing requirement. So look at these videos. You will see a complete workflow with PTC and any other one. It's just the same thing seen from Stimulus viewpoint. And look to other videos. They will show you. You will learn a lot looking to these videos, small videos. They are very pedagogic and nice to watch. I assure you, I made them. Therefore, they can only be good, of course.
Right. Thank you so much, Yves. We have more questions coming up, but due to the time constraint, we need to end up the session right now. And we will reach out to everyone on an email answering all of your questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this session. Thank you, Yves. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Most welcome.